In the Pits is partnered with Get That Shot. Get That Shot now offers first-in-line photo and video editing, 20% off Get That Shot merch, and 20% off prints to all teams that wear the Get That Shot logo on their jersey. Message GetDat_shot on Facebook or Instagram to become a Get That Shot program team. In the Pits is sponsored by FUAthletics, created with a purpose and focused on building a better you. We are a brand that matters in your workout, and every purchase gives back to cancer research. Go to thefuathletics.com and use code INTHEPITS25 for 25% off of your order. In the Pits is sponsored by Hustletown Paintball. Hustletown is a brand by Jason Tinsley of Houston that is all about representing Houston paintball and highlighting its local talent. Head to hustletownpaintball.net to browse their selection of casual wear and use code PIT10 for 10% off of your order. In the Pits is partnered with Paintball Kumite. Paintball Kumite is a program designed by Colt Roberts of professional team San Antonio X Factor to take paintball players of all ages, experience levels, and skill groups and mold them into champions. The program breaks the game down into small, easy-to-learn sessions designed to help you master the fundamentals so that you can elevate your game. Newcomers to the program get a free 1-hour introductory class when mentioning In the Pits. To sign up for a class, message @PaintballKumite on Instagram. In the Pits is partnered with Compete. Compete is a Texas-based brand by Jill Stewart of professional team AC Diesel that provides custom jerseys, pants, headbands, straps, tech shirts, and any other soft goods to help individuals and teams compete at the highest level. Support Texas paintball and message Compete on Facebook or Instagram and mention In the Pits Podcast for 10% off your entire order. Welcome everyone to episode 31 of In the Pits Paintball Podcast. This podcast is focused on everything that has to do with the paintball scene here in Texas, from professional players and teams to new divisional programs, local tournament series, field owners, Texas-based brands, even photographers and videographers. Every week we will have a short and sweet episode with a new topic and a new special guest. I'm Christian Smith. I'm a player for the Texas Titans, and this episode we are going in the pits with Rob Moore and Kenneth Matthew, founders and owners of Kinetic Paintball. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Good, thanks.
Doing awesome.
Awesome. Glad to have y'all on. It's a pleasure. I know y'all have a new product coming out, exciting drop, so I'd love to hear all about it. But first, for those listening that don't know about you guys personally, how long have you been involved in paintball? Rob, let's start with you.
I've been involved in paintball after World Cup 2009. That's when I started playing. I played on a Young Guns team in my local area in New Jersey. Kind of fell in love with it. Played with my dad like 1 or 2 times, and then wanted to play competitively since I had a buddy of mine that played competitively. That's kind of how I jumped into it.
Cool. Kenneth, how about you?
Yeah, I've been involved, 20 years now. Started playing competitively when I was 14. Haven't played competitive recently, but started connecting. That's how I've stayed involved in the sport.
Cool. So as players, like, what are some of the teams that y'all have played for over the years?
So I played out of this field called All-Star Paintball. It was actually an indoor field in New Jersey. So I played out of there, and then also during the summer I would play out of this place called Top Gun Paintball. Both of them no longer exist. Top Gun used to have a pro team at one point in time during PSP. And then from there is actually where I met Ken. We played at Temple University together on the college team. So we played there, and I played there my 4 years of college. And then after college, I played with a team called the Pirates, playing in this league called Foxball up in Massachusetts, probably about an hour or 2 outside of Boston, which was a ton of fun. Shout out Dave Painter. He made a great league. Kind of sucks that it's no longer around. But that was a ton of fun. I mean, me and my whole team for a couple of events, we wore Adidas tracksuits, like the whole like 3-stripe, white shirt, full like Slav stance, like tracksuit thing. It was hilarious. From there, I played on this team called DC Justice that didn't last very long. Just the logistics of it, like half the team was in Virginia, half the team was like in the New York, New Jersey area. And then like played on this team called the Tri-State Titans. We played two events together. We played Amsterdam together, which was a ton of fun. If you've never gone overseas to go play, I highly recommend it. Played with like a throw together team at NXL Chantilly. It was like one of the last years that they did Chantilly, which was amazing. Kind of wish that they brought back that venue. It was super cool. And then after that, I've just kind of been hopping on with a random team for the past couple of seasons, playing like one event. I've been mainly more doing media, doing photography. I'm actually a staff photographer for Iconic Paintball. So, and actually, please go vote for me. I think today's the last day to go vote. But yeah, so the past couple of years, I kind of phased out of playing and doing more media and kind of being now a vendor. Kind of hoping that I could get more back into playing, but it's definitely tough to go to fields and it's like, I really want to play, but at the same time, like this is a great place for me to be working.
Yeah, I started at Paintball on the Fly in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, playing 3-man. I can't remember the team name. I'd actually made it myself. I'd like put a post on PB Nation, like, hey, looking for players to play 3-man, and a bunch of us like got together and we played for like 2 years at GPL, which was like the big Mid Atlantic League in like the early 2010s. From there, I went and played at OXCC. What was it called back then? I can't remember what it was called.
It was OA.
OA, that's right. It was OA.
Yeah,
I played at
it was
OA
OA season.
with Lancaster Aggression. We played GPL. I think it was still called GPL at the time. And we also played USPA X-Ball with like, it was like Arsenal, Misfits.
I think Lyft also played it when it was still at OA.
I used to play against Lyft in 7-man.
Yeah.
We practiced them in 7-man. It was fun. That was when I was actually like halfway decent at paintball. Definitely not anymore. And then when I went to college, I played at like a small field in Quarryville called Sure Shot, where actually like a couple of like Robbie Griffith came out of Sure Shot actually. Yeah, me and Robbie used to go at it on the field. And then I went to Temple for law school. And I played on the team for like a year and a half. First year I couldn't play because I had ankle surgery. Second year I played a full season. Third year, I basically missed the entire season because of just commitments with school. And then I really haven't played. What?
Did you also go away? You went away. You did that semester abroad or a year abroad.
Yeah, I went to the University of Oxford for a semester, which was awesome. I mean, I went to class twice a week for 1 hour, so it was basically like a free schedule after that. And then after that, I haven't played really competitively since. Like, yeah, I played a little bit with the DC Justice guys. I went to the tryout. Wasn't really actually trying out, but played with them when they were around. But besides that, it's really tough to play competitively consistently. Like I found as I've gotten older, like there's just more responsibilities. I actually think it's like an issue with competitive paintball is you have to dedicate so much time to just playing at a field. Like it takes me an hour to drive the field both ways. So you got 2 hours there. And then you're waiting around for like 3 to 4 hours to play maybe an hour of paintball. Like that's a lot of time commitment when you have like a professional, like you have a job. I have kids now. I really wish someone would just like develop something where we just chauffeur. I play a full solid hour and I can drive home. That'd make it so much easier time wise.
Yeah, so I love y'all's background stories. I was also a product of NCPA. I actually started in college. I didn't start until 2015, but I was with the Texas Longhorns for a couple of years. And yeah, it's cool to learn all of like the different backgrounds and really like the histories of paintball around the US. Like I myself, even though I've been in the scene for 8 years. I mean, that's only starting in 2015. There's still like a whole lot of history before then that me and even a lot of the newer players, they just have no idea about. So it's cool to learn all about y'all's history. So now, like we've talked a little bit about like the different teams that you've played under, but how did you originally get into paintball for the first time? Kenneth, let's start with you.
My aunt got me passes to, wasn't Boston Paintball. I want to say it wasn't Fox 4. What's the other big field in Massachusetts?
Maynard, but that's part of Boston Paintball because Boston Paintball has two different sets of fields.
Maybe it was Boston Paint. It was Maynard. I can't remember, but that was the first field I played at with my aunt. Got me tickets, and then she bought me a gun. It was a Tippmann 98, which I then proceeded to hack up and customize to my own liking. I fucked that gun up so badly. I broke the sear multiple times trying to shave it down to get a lighter trigger pull. But yeah, first time was I guess somewhere outside of Boston, and it was a blast. I really enjoyed it.
Well, how about you, Rob?
Yeah, the first time I ever played paintball was down at Hot Shots in Florida. I don't think that field exists anymore. They had the Palm Beach Vipers were out of there for the longest time when they played like semi-pro and stuff and D1. They had like I played with my dad, like it was like over like Christmas break, doing like some rec ball. I mean, like I had like the whole like green like disposable suit that you get from there to 98, and that's where I kind of fell in love with it.
Cool. So with how long both of y'all have been involved in the scene, Ken, let's start with you. What are some things that you have noticed about the paintball scene as a whole that has changed over the years?
I mean, the speed of the guns has gotten a lot less. I used to play at uncapped semi, and I played 15 PPS at the USPA and the X Ball. I did 13.3 when that was the standard, and I did 12.5 and then 10.5. And I have found that it's actually 10.5 is really boring. Like I just don't find it that interesting. It feels so slow to me. Maybe because I don't play as consistently anymore. So every time I go out to the field, it's on 10.5. It just feels incredibly slow from what I'm like remembering as a kid. The other thing is like the gear has gotten much more athletic looking. Like when I started, it was super boxy, multiple colors. Now it's very like all streamlined and black. It's like a double-edged sword. Like it's kind of lost some of the creativity that was like distinguishing amongst the manufacturers. Now everyone kind of looks alike, and I mean we're part of that too. Like we make black pants. Like that was kind of our bread and butter. Like that's our bread and butter, and that's what we started making. But everyone's doing black pants now. It's just all black. So I that's one thing I've noticed. Like the gear, much more athletic, but also kind of all the same thing in a way.
Sure. Rob, how about you? What are some things that you've noticed have kind of changed in paintball over the years?
Over the years, at least within the tournament scene, I've noticed that the logistics of running tournaments have become more important because more people are now being involved. Like Ken and I in NCPA Class A used to be 2 10-minute halves with a penalty box. And that would take about an hour and a half to 2 hours to play a match. And now, and PSB used to be like that. Old NXL was like that. USPA was 2 25-minute halves. But now it's which is a lot of fun. If you've never played halves or a penalty box, it is a totally different experience. It is a ton of fun. And if you talk to anybody that has played with a penalty box, it's a whole different way of playing and how to manage penalties, because they overlap across time because it's like a hockey penalty. So now they've created a system where more teams can be playing on the less amount of fields, which from a logistics standpoint makes it, I would like to say, things smoother, but it just requires a lot less resources to do it. Because I like, for example, World Cup, like if you're still playing like actual X-ball matches, they would probably need, I would say, at least another 3 or 4 fields, and they're already running like 6 or 7 in the divisional fields. But yeah, so I think that was a big thing that I've noticed over time. Definitely the style of gear, to Ken's point, is now more athletic and more streamlined. It's definitely taken off of a lot of like streetwear with the joggers and everything. And I would definitely say that athleticism within the sport is becoming more and more important. Just because people are treating this more and more like a sport than how it used to be. Like a lot of people would say some of the greats like Chris Lasoya, Dave Baines, like some of these guys, I mean, they didn't move super fast, but they lived behind their gun and like it worked at that time. It's questionable to see if it would still work at this time with how quickly games move and progress. I mean, look at the Dynasty guys. They're getting up there in age, but they've kept themselves in great physical shape so that they can adapt over time.
Got it. To Ken's point, last episode I had Ryan Brand on, and then a couple episodes before that I had Archie, who they're both the owners of Project Paintball. And one of the things that we talked about was how the trend of paintball from like mid 2010s up until about 2019, 2020 was like black on black. And to me, it was really boring. I mean, part of it I think was like the whole like team gear package thing. Like I know if you're going with a GI or a JT package, your pants are all black, your mask is black, your gun and your hopper all black, which is boring, but from like a manufacturer's side of things, I mean, it makes sense to cut costs in that way. But it's cool to see like more of these like headband companies that are coming out, and even like the resurgence of the whole like, you know, JT Proflex market where guys are starting to, you know, show that personal flair more and more. So it's, yeah, the black is I mean, it's not as personal flair as you would think for a game that's literally called paintball. But you know, I think the personal touches are starting to come back in other ways, which is really cool. So this next question, which is brought to us by Hustletown Paintball, head to hustletownpaintball.net, use code PIT10 for 10% off of your order. So I know both of you guys are really more focused as a like more on the industry side of things, and Rob, you on the media side. Have both of you, like, have either of you been able to get out and play events every now and then, or are you pretty much just focused on that side of the scene for now?
So I try to play at least one event a year. NXLs, I'm working doing media, and that actually allows me to go to more events across the year. NXLs are expensive. Most of the time you gotta fly, and then it's like paying for paint. Entry is super expensive. So doing the media side of things, and actually I was part of one of the group of people that started the media gang, which is like me, George Fava, All in Media, Bryce Diaz, Stretch, Nina from overseas, Aztec Photography, Bangerang Photography, Duo Venture, a lot of heavy hitters within the media space. So that keeps me there, and then I'll work some of the local events, and then every now and then I try to play one, usually like D4. I mean, this past year, like I played a D5 event just because it's easy. It's tough for me to play events because most people want somebody that's like, you're going to commit to a team for the full season. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I realistically haven't been able to do. But I have been playing. I play on the weekends. Shout out Battle Creek Paintball. One of the best places in New Jersey to play. Same thing with Quick Shot, the whole TSXL crew, Jonathan Rowland and his guys. They run a really great league. So I try to get out when I can.
Yeah, for the whole like media gang, like I feel like there's so many more like photographers and videographers that are out there, and not just them, but people that are doing podcasts, doing things like their own paintings of people in paintball, which one of those guys got nominated for the Iconic Awards this year. And like even here in Texas, I mean, the main guy that we have is Verbal, Brian Wolf, who's been like, he didn't even start videography until like April of this year, and so like he's blown up. And so it's like cool that there was clearly a need for this kind of thing within our scene, and that all of these different guys are like, they're filling that need and they're getting rewarded for it, because there was clearly like, I mean, paintball is really cool if you can get like those certain clips and just the right angle. And it's going to be, I think, a pivotal part in, or maybe already has been a pivotal part in growing the player base, growing the audience, like the general audience viewership for paintball. So, Ken, how about you? Are you getting around to playing much nowadays, or are you pretty much just focused on the business side?
Try to get out like once a year, unfortunately. I go down to SMP, so shout out SMP when I have a chance to get out and play. But it's like once a year, maybe twice. Last event I played was what, Rob? 2019 Philly NXL 10-man.
10-man, yes, yes.
Yeah, and I ended on getting a major, so it was good.
You hate to see it.
I earned it. I'd love to play more, honestly. I miss it. I really think about playing a lot, but I'm trying to find the time, and once I'm able to, like, I'll definitely be out there more.
Got it. So, I mean, what you both have been doing in the meantime is still very much like heavily involved in the scene. So both of you have founded Kinetic Paintball, which is a brand that, at least originally I had heard of as one that like made custom, like tailored pants, which were very high quality and had the reputation of lasting multiple seasons with no rips, tears, anything like that. So y'all go ahead and tell me how the business Kinetic Paintball got started.
Yeah, so I had a pair of Empire Contact Zeros, I think like 2015s, which I love those pants, by the way. I thought they were the best pants until I made the Kinetic pants. But I got fed up with they're too heavy, too much padding. They didn't breathe super well, and they had like no stretch fabric in them. Like there's just a couple places where they stretched, and then the rest was just really baggy. So you could still move in them. So I did some research. I ended up stealing my mom's like sewing machine from the 1960s and putting together a pair of pants. And I had this like great big unveiling. I'm like, all right, I'm going to wear these pants to the field. Rob was there. It was like some temple day. And they were like high waters on me, like basically capris. Like they didn't even come close to fitting me. And so, but they fit Rob perfectly. Right? So I gave them to Rob. He loved them. We kind of said, hey, actually, maybe we can make a business out of that. And then started the long journey of like trying to get it manufactured, trying to raise money on Kickstarter to get it going. I mean, it's definitely been a process, learned a lot, but I can't believe like where we started and where we are now. It's pretty wild to think that was what, 7 years ago, almost 6 years. Yeah. 6 years ago. It'll be 6 years this year.
So when y'all started, were like how long were y'all just like making the pants in house before you were able to like progress to finding a manufacturer?
Actually, 2 years. It's 2 years of design work.
Yeah, so we actually never made pants in house. We made prototypes and samples in house, because it did take us about 2 years to finalize what we wanted, and then that's when we started raising money to go into the manufacturing process. So, and when we first started, it was really small batch orders, and that's kind of how you've heard about like the custom tailoring, is that we would have standard sizes, and then we would do the hemming for the length in house. Like it wasn't until more recently that we transitioned the business to that the hemming or the bottoms of the pants would be done on the consumer end, and we've empowered our customers to be able to do it because it's actually surprisingly very easy. And really, I mean, I've had guys come up to me. He's like, "Yeah, I had my girlfriend or like my grandmother like do this. Going to like a local tailor or seamstress, it's like $5 or $10 to get it done."
Got it. So now that you've been doing pants for so long, like how have you noticed like the response from the paintball scene as a whole or the community? Like what kind of response are you seeing? How many pairs of pants would you say that you're selling on like a, let's say, like a yearly basis?
So we get a great response from people, especially being a small company and being a like price point. There's a lot of doubt in the beginning, especially when we first came out. People would just look at us as like it just looks like regular like black pants, and that was kind of the point of it, is that we make a product that it's a quality product and it's a performance product. So you really don't understand how good it is until you try it. So that's why over the past since we started, we've always tried to go out to fields and do demo days, and because we put that much trust in the product. And more recently, definitely more recently, we've definitely blown up a lot. I mean, we've had over the years looks from pro players telling friends and family to check us out. We've had a team, probably a couple teams now, buy our pants just to wear them in practice, and then they wear their sponsors' pants because it gets them a paint deal at events. Our internal mantra is the gear that players want to wear when their sponsors aren't looking. Because we've made a name for ourselves in making a high quality product. As in terms of units, I mean, last year was our biggest year and we did about 600 units. And last year was the first year that we've ever been in a retail store. Shout out Matrix Gear Paintball on the West Coast. Paul has been super insightful on the retail end, and we can't thank him enough about it. And this year, I mean, we're hoping to do the same volume, hopefully to do more, and we're looking to get more integrated with a couple leagues across the country to help promote us.
Cool. So this kind of leads me into my next question, actually. So what are some goals that you guys have had for Kinetic, either ones that you have already achieved or ones that you are working towards?
So goals that we wanted in the beginning, one, we just wanted to be profitable. just to start. I mean, like any business wants to be profitable, especially manufacturing. Like manufacturing is expensive, and especially with some of the fabrics that we use. I mean, we actually had one of our manufacturers, and he was actually inside the industry. I'm just not going to go into names right now. When we sent him our fabric, he was overly impressed by the fabric that we sent him, and basically said, just like, there are ways to make your product a little bit more cost efficient, so that you could get bigger margins. Like that's not the goal for us. Our goal as a company is to innovate and push the envelope. We want to be the company the pinnacle of paintball in terms of making gear. Whenever you hear Kinetic, we know people are going to say is like, yeah, they make good stuff. It's expensive, but like you make good stuff. I mean, companies that are similar to that are like Arc'teryx, which is in like mountain gear and snow gear. Not a lot of people know about them, I would say, in the general basis. But like if you're into snow sports or like any like mountain climbing things, they're at the top of the list. If you buy their gear, like it's going to be good for forever. So that's what we want to do, especially since this is Ken and I's business on the side. We both have jobs outside of paintball as well. So this is very much a passion point of like, how do we make changes within the industry by showcasing that these are things that should be done. I mean, looking at our pants, like at the time, this was 2016, things were still pretty baggy. Logos were all over the place on gear. And I would say about a year and a half, 2 years later, people started making slimmer cut pants or making joggers because people were confusing our pants as joggers. And now you see almost every company making some type of jogger. So we definitely feel internally that we are trendsetters in some sort of capacity, and that's what we try to do.
Got it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to ask.
It's the goal of our company is kind of make cool shit. Like we're not gonna put out a product unless we think it's a significant like improvement over what's existing. And like I know like a lot of people probably look at our pants and think it's just a simple pair of black pants. It's got 5 panels on it on the waistband. That took like our KPS took like a year and a half of development because we were trying to figure out I was trying to figure out exactly where do I place this seam? What type of seam do I use here? What kind of fabric do I use? And it took a lot of time to get that design right. And like we're still like there's probably still improvements we can make. Like I always have a list like on my computer, like, okay, this is the things I want to knock off in the next version whenever we get there. But it's like I think what we've done is we've shown that simplicity actually makes a better product. Like the less panels you have on a pair of pants, the less rips you have, the less seams you have, the more stretch you can get out of the fabrics you use. So like we don't have to use crazy spandex fabrics like other companies do to get like decent movement. Like we have like 25% stretch in our pants because the panels are structured in such a way that you get the most out of the fabric that we're using, and then we get the most durability from that fabric because we're not having to use again like the spandex knits that are more susceptible to rips and tears. We can use stretch woven fabrics that still give you the same kind of performance.
Got it. And I know, Rob, one of the things that you brought up was that at first the reputation was like, yeah, it was a high price at the time, but it was also a very high quality product. And at the time when the KPs first came out, it was a high price point for the time for the products in the market that were being released. But what you're seeing now, your pants are actually pretty much in the same price range as a lot of other major manufacturers. Like I know the JT Pro joggers, they're only like $10 or $15 cheaper than the KPs. Carbon pants are the same price, if not slightly more expensive. Same thing for the HK TRK joggers. And so in some cases, like you're on price point or even slightly cheaper. So what are some things that you guys have done with your KPs to make sure that not only are they competitive, market-wise price point, but they're also a quality product that can survive on the field?
Yeah, you want me to take this, Robert? And take it.
Yeah, go right ahead because I already know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, as I just mentioned, it gets down to like seam placement, it gets down to the quality of the fabrics, and that took a while to develop, especially when we moved production from like we actually have completely different manufacturers when we first started, and we went through like it must have been like 20, 30 samples of like just the upper body of the paints to figure out what is the best kind of like stretch, what's going to give the most durability. I'd like sit there with like sandpaper and scratch the fabric to see how much it like pilled, to see kind of get a sense of like how much abrasion resistance it could take. So it just again it really comes down to like simplicity of design and like quality fabrics. And if you have those two things, you'll make a good pair of pants. And then it gets down to breathability. Like another thing is like breathability with us is we don't use any coated fabrics. A lot of companies when they buy like 500D nylon, that's luggage weight fabric, so it typically is coated because it's used in bags and backpacks. But that urethane coating is waterproof. It doesn't allow any air to pass through it. So it's super hot, super uncomfortable. And that's why people, when they put our pants on, like, we don't use coated fabrics. Like, we get it specially made without the coating. And like, wow, this breathes so much better. I'm like, yeah, because you're not wearing like solid plastic between your knees.
Got it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like in I guess the mechanics and the details of just making pants. I mean, there's definitely a lot that goes into it, especially when you're trying to make a product that is like a very specialized product for what the paintball market is. But also like meeting and exceeding the expectations of the players that are gonna, absolutely beat it to hell. So, I guess my next question for you on these pants, I know it wasn't on the list that I sent you guys, but do you have other improvements? Like I know you said like you have a whole list of things that you're always working on, but do you have any other things like in the near future, I guess, that you would say like could be like on the next version of KPs?
Probably not. I mean,
Mm.
it's these improvements are more they're not like durability improvements per se, they're just more performance improvements that are more in my head rather than actually like on a pair of pants right now. So not for a little while, but eventually, we have some time with the KPS before we're going to change it to the next version. So this will probably a little ways off.
Got it. So real quick for everybody that's in the chat, I want to welcome y'all. If you have a question that you want to ask Ken or Rob, go ahead and get it in the chat. We will have a segment for that towards the end of the episode. Another question that I have for you guys, I realize I haven't asked you this yet, is for both of you, what are your roles with Kinetic? Like, what are your job titles essentially?
Okay, yeah. So we really made the division of labor as like the front end versus the back end. Ken handling all of the back end, all of our R&D work, talking to manufacturers, sourcing fabrics and everything, and kind of doing a lot with like our financials and our books. While on the front end is me going into marketplace, sales, marketing, and that's why I took the role of media is because it allows me to go connect with as many players as possible, especially on the national level. Actually, Ken came with me to World Cup last year for the first time. It was actually his first World Cup ever. He was kind of shocked at how many people I knew, just because for the past couple of years I've been trying to go to every single NXL. So having a presence, and especially being a guy with a camera, it makes it very easy to go talk to people because usually people want pictures. I mean, now it's switching over to video, and I don't really do video, but it's always handy to be friends with a media guy.
Got it. Sweet. So, one of the new products that you guys have been working on and you just recently released is called the KMP, or the Kinetic Modular Pack. So tell me more about this new product.
Want to start, Rob? Or you want me to?
You got it. This is your baby.
Yeah, I started playing around with pack designs like in 2017, just trying to make them more comfortable, make them bounce less. With the KMP, we kind of had 3 goals. There was like getting it to bounce less. I wanted a really thin belt because I really don't like how thick paintball belts are. They like feel like girdles. And then I wanted to be able to replace parts because when it's like elastic, like you're never gonna buy elastic that can last forever. It's going to wear out within a year, and then you're ending up having to buy like a new pack within like another $100. So we wanted to like be able to just like simply replace out the parts that wore out and make that like super easy for the consumer. On the belt side, as I mentioned, I wanted to be a super thin belt, which was really a challenge. Like, if you notice, like a lot of like the packs now, like it's moving toward like having 3 belts that are about 4 to 5 inches thick, kind of prevent it from rocking, or like I say like 4 belts now. I think HK has 4 belts. Like we didn't want to go that direction because it just adds layers and again makes the girdle sensation even more. So we developed a belt which we actually just filed for our patent 2 days ago, which I'm pretty excited about. Where we've like strategically placed the elastic in certain locations and then made the rest of the belt non-stretch. So it will only stretch in certain ways, but won't stretch in ways that will cause the pack to bounce like excessively. And then what was the last thing I said? One thing on like the modularity too. I know we talked about like headband creators at the beginning. I kind of hope that this pack can become like an impetus for people to create parts for it. There's like a huge community in the nylon tactical market of small shops producing gear for like ballistic vests or magazine holsters. And I kind of hope that that we can bring that to the paintball community too, and people can take our base layer, our base pack, and like design their own parts for it to make it what they want.
Yeah. It kind of brings back that like the old like shocker and autococker community where people would kind of buy that base model and then customize it however they wanted to. That kind of fell off as electronic markers came. I would like to call it more standardized, but it was just more restrictive of customization outside of like laser engraving or getting something anode. I know that like Twister does their like own custom milling and stuff, but it's definitely not what it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, there used to be a whole community of like parts for your gun. Like you could get a new different kind of bolt for any gun you wanted, and people would create it. Like even like for Egos, like '05 Ego, I had like a separate bolt from another company. It was like really cool. And it was like this whole separate industry, like outside of just like the big manufacturers. And I hope that with our product, that can kind of be encouraged again. And someone will be like, I don't think Kinetic designed the pods correctly. I'm going to redesign it and put my own flair to it. We're actually eventually going to like release part of like the CAD for the design, so like people can take that pattern, like just the base pattern, not like the whole thing, but they can take the base pattern so it'll fit perfectly into our pod pack.
That's a very interesting approach. Like you hear a lot about these companies that are making like for the EMEC, there's a whole slew of different companies that are making custom bodies, custom triggers, things like that for this platform. But I don't think you've ever seen it for a pod pack specifically. And having that modular design is a very interesting concept to me. So did you feel like another thing with it being modular, your ability to replace parts as they wear out, you also adjust things like having a strapped pack versus a strapless pack, or even the number of loops that you have. So was that something that you felt was a need for the player base?
I think so, because everyone has preferences. Some people like the comfort of straps to hold their pods tight, and some people don't feel like they need them. They're willing to take the risk of a pod opening up. So with our pack, like, you can have straps or you don't want to have straps. And like the beauty of the design, I'm not sure how familiar you are with ballistic vest designs, but it's basically a giant placard with like a huge, and it all velcros down. So you can put stuff like in between the placard, you can add parts to it. Again, you can change out the pod, like have different layers of pods if you wanted to design that for yourselves. And you can add straps really easily. You just lift up the velcro in between, and you have straps on your pack. It's a super flexible design, and I think it has a lot of potential that I hope people take advantage of beyond what we have thought of.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I guess another question that I have: do you like think like what would your long-term goal as far as this product's release for the community as a whole? Do you think it will also be a trend center like the KPs were at the time?
Yeah, I hope so. It's tough because like our design hopefully will get its patent, so will hopefully have the IP protection attached to it. It's a unique design, but I hope it forces people, or not forces, but makes people rethink about how to design a pack. Because we mentioned earlier, what companies have done to reduce the bouncing of pack is they've added extra straps, they've increased the amount of elastic on the packs, and that's a fine way to go. Like that, I think it works clearly. Like the Infamous pack doesn't bounce, the new HK pack doesn't really seem to bounce. But there's only so much you can get out of elastic. It's not really a good fabric for load-bearing applications. You don't see any backpack straps made exclusively with elastic because they'll stretch out and bounce around. So why are we doing that for packs? Like, there's definitely better ways to do it, and that's what we're trying to take it to the next level with this pack. Like, we're trying to move away from just relying on elastic to keep 10 to 12 pounds on your back. It's just not going to work for the duration of like a full season. Like, that elastic will wear out.
Got it. I mean, I love the approach. It's definitely a new way of thinking about things. Like PAX isn't really something that a lot of people think about too much. They mostly just go like, oh, I'll just wear either whatever I have or whatever my sponsor provides, and either that or just pick, like, I know with Carbon, one thing that they're doing is they have like the cushions that go in the pack, either with the air pump or the actual pillow, which I thought was a really cool innovation. But seeing more ways to do this thing that's been done for a very long time, just new innovations, is very cool to see. So for anybody that's listening out there, if they wanted to become more involved with Kinetic's products, if they wanted to like just buy the packs or the pants, or maybe even wanted to do like some sort of package deal, how can they, and what programs or discounts do you offer for players or entire teams?
So we do team orders. We do sponsorships. I'm gonna shout out a bunch of people here. If depending on the area that you're in, we do have reps out there. Jake Kennedy out in Texas. He's been a huge supporter of us since probably when we first started going with our original run. Jesse Villa, God, I know I'm gonna pronounce his last name wrong. It's like Villagos out on the West Coast. Matt Furman down in Florida. I'm on the East Coast, and then I'm really traveling wherever, going to as many NXLs as possible and trying to get up to some other leagues. Like we're hoping to be at Bunker Fest this year, potentially with a booth. Nothing's confirmed there. Like, I'd love to be at WCPPO, where Jesse is, as well as where Matrix Gear is. They've been at that series. And honestly, like, we are trying to have more of a presence within like upper divisional teams, where I feel like every manufacturer wants that. You want to have a pro team, you want to have as many upper divisional teams, but it's really interesting to see that there are teams coming to us that are kind of like, they figured out a way to financially secure themselves for their season outside of going with like another manufacturer, so that they can prioritize, I want high quality performance gear. And really, any team or player that wears our gear, they're huge advocates for us across the board. I think there's been only a handful of people across the 6 years that we've been in business that have like actually not liked our products, and usually for the most part it's really a fit that they're not comfortable with. We started the tapered, like, slim cut look, and just not a lot. Some people don't want that. They want more of a straight cut, or they want like a baggier fit, and like everybody has their own personal opinion and preference, and like that's totally fine. But I think that, and you can go across the buy-sell trade threads. It's crazy to see, and especially now that we've been doing this for so long, and especially in the beginning, that people will post up as like looking to buy a pair of pants. Like, what are people's recommendations? And there's so many people that post Kinetic, especially being a small company and really just being like a 2-man army. Like, it's huge to hear such an outcry of like, buy, like, this is the brand that you want if you want quality. Especially since there's so many other brands there that having quality and performance being succinct with our brand, it really hits home to like what we are trying to do.
Yeah. Also shout out to Jake Kennedy. He's the one that actually got Rob and Ken in contact with me to get on the show. I know that y'all do have a couple of these higher divisional players. Like, I know you have a few Brawl players, or at least you have had them for a while. In Division 3, I know Jake's team, they used to be called Caprock Cavalry, now they're the Swag Jackers. I know his group wears them, but I know you have had a few like upper divisional guys. I don't know about any pro teams, just because of how like the whole, I guess, politics situation is with manufacturers and their pro teams. But I know that like I see the same thing on the buy sell trade pages where it's, you know, the high quality product, and anybody who's not tied to manufacturers either for paint deals or whatever at the NXL events, they're coming to you guys, and that's really cool to see. So my last question for you about this is brought to you by FUAthletics. So go to thefuathletics.com, use code inthepits25 for 25% off of your order. So does Kinetic have any other things in store for the future?
Yes. So we are working on a jersey that's probably going to be our next product that we're hoping to release this year. Really, probably, we're probably going to release an early version, probably soon, hopefully. And then really like our top tier version is going to be on probably midway through the year. And the biggest reason why that we want to do a jersey is because now we'll be like a full outerwear company, other than a mask. But what we've seen, what we would call is wrong in the industry is that a lot of the pattern making for jerseys it's based off of like a hockey jersey, which isn't made for being in like the gun up position. So we're taking a lot of ideas from like special missions gear, as well as like any like shooting companies and stuff that make tops and stuff, to really start bringing in those ideas and those like techniques and bringing it into paintball. Because what we've seen a lot is that a lot of these techniques and fabrics, how garments are made, there are so many good ideas outside of paintball that just aren't being used. And we're trying to be the force that brings it in, so that, like I said before, that kind of encourages other manufacturers to now push the envelope. Players are going to see is like, oh, wow, this company's doing it. Why aren't all these other companies doing this? And really kind of making that outcry of saying like, we want better gear. This is our sport. And like, especially with big manufacturers, like they definitely have the ability to do it. It's like, why won't they do it?
Got it. I mean, I can tell just from our conversation this evening that y'all really think about these things on like a more practical level. It's not just about like doing things for profit margins or anything like that. It's like physically thinking about the player's experience with like mechanics, like where the fabric stretches, or you know, like with the jersey thing, like how does it actually look, instead of just going with like, oh, hockey jerseys look good, let's go with that. No, like physically thinking about all the different player experiences is really cool. So I think that with these products that you have out now and any other things that you come out with in the future, it's really going to change how the industry thinks about things for the better. So I'm excited to see what y'all are up to in the near future. So real quick, everybody in the chat, we've got one more question before we're going to get to chat questions. So if you have something you want to ask Ken or Rob, go ahead, get it in now. So this question is brought to us by Get Dat Shot, who's another NXL Pro Media guy. Message him on Facebook or Instagram for media coverage at Bunkerfest or NXL. He's going to be at the full series for both of them. So are there any teams, players, brands, or projects that have caught your attention lately? So who out there deserves more recognition for what they're doing?
Yeah. Really the brands that we've worked with, Sunday Certified out on the West Coast. He hand makes all his headbands. They're super high quality. I mean, I have a couple of friends that own a couple bands and they love them. He makes awesome stuff, and just I love his brand as a whole. And then by me on the East Coast in New Jersey is Enemy of the State. It's a bunch of guys making some pretty cool gear. I mean, it's a combination of streetwear meets paintball, and it really gives that like New York like Brooklyn Bronx vibe. And I love to see that they're doing all these limited drops, and they've been growing a ton. And I mean, really, they have like a cult following. It's wild. And I mean, they've just been putting out top tier gear. I think they just had tryouts for factory teams, D3 through D5, or tryouts are happening soon. But especially one of those guys, his name is Robert Panarello. He's done a lot of stuff for autism, like within paintball. So I mean, they are great guys over there. I mean, I can't shout them out enough.
Yeah, I'd also add King's Creation to that list down for it. And he makes great bands. I love the headband community because they take the process from like dyeing the fabric to sewing it, putting the headband together, and like just it's how like we started with the pants, like taking like raw fabric, turning it into a product, and it's just really great to see. And I hope, we talked about earlier, like more companies come into the fold and start doing that.
Yeah, there's a lot more companies lately that have come in and started doing like these smaller things like headbands, things like tank dangle, enjoy paintball. Like there's a lot more casual wear, street wear, things like that. It's really cool to see. So let's see. It doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat. It's just a lot of people giving a whole lot of love to your gear. Best paintball pants in the game. One person in the chat says they got their KPs at Matrix, which is really cool to see. I guess one question that I have for you, I know that you have two like retailers that you sell your products at. Do you have any plans to either expand that to maybe more retailers, or have maybe like a presence at more events like NXL? Like, I know you said you were possibly thinking of getting a booth at Bunkerfest. Would you also consider doing that at the NXL events?
So this is something that we would love to, and it really comes down to, for us, time and money. Like I said before, both Ken and I, we work jobs outside of paintball. Actually, fun fact, Ken is a lawyer. He's definitely way smarter than I am. But I mean, we started the company with $8,000, and then we kickstarted $7,000. So we started like really, really small. Especially like in manufacturing terms, like that's basically nothing. We've heard of other no manufacturers starting their business with like 80 grand. So as much as we want to go out to these events, like it costs a lot to go to NXL, especially NXL. There's a booth fee. Bunkerfest, Chris Wrangle. I'm super excited for the series to be happening this year. Like there are no vendor fees there, which is great to see, which will bring out hopefully as many vendors as possible. I know of one or two other vendors out on the East Coast that they're willing to travel to Bunkerfest because there's no vendor fees. And we've kind of taken, at least for the past couple of years, the guerrilla approach instead of having a booth in a centralized location, especially since we've only had one pants, to just go out and talk to people. At World Cup, Ken and I both each had a duffel bag of pants and a couple packs. There were only samples at the time, and just walking around the pits, just handing them out to people. Just be like, this is who we are. We make awesome stuff. Like, go play a match in it. Like, never heard of us. Like, try it out. Like, we let our product speak for itself, and we have more than enough belief that you're gonna like it. So that's kind of how we've been going out to it. So I mean, you'll definitely at least see me out at events, but at a booth, maybe not, just because of the cost of it.
Got it. Well, I hope as your products gain more popularity that you're able to do that more and more, and hopefully that trajectory really picks up, because I know, at least from what I've heard from your products, it's definitely deserving of it. So we got one question in the chat that just came up. The question is, when you design pants, do you guys at any point design it with the female paintball player in mind? So thinking about waist to hip ratios in the design. she says, or this viewer, they say that finding pants that fit right is difficult, but there's not that many female players, so it's understandable that these products are mainly designed for male players.
Yeah, she kind of hit the nail on the head. It's just such a small market. It's tough to grade to females. Like when you design pants, there's different gradings. So males have a different grade, and this grading is the sizing. Like when you different grades, it's different sizes, and they vary between men and women. It's really tough to create a product, especially when we don't produce that much. Like we're not producing tens of thousands of pieces of gear every year. Our margins are not like what the big manufacturers do. So we kind of have to like really be kind of ruthless in what we focus on, and focus primarily on like the male physique, I guess, and designing pants. That being said, like our pants are super adjustable. So if you're looking for, if you need to size up because you have like wider hips, you can wear an XL easily because the belt is so adjustable that it can cinch down. Like there's a video on our Instagram. I'm like a 32. I'm wearing a 38 in the video because I was able to get the belt tight enough with how adjustable our waist is. So it can be done. It's just, yeah, we can't design like specifically to both genders.
Well, it sounds like just in your design that you're able to like kind of cater towards a lot of different people out there of, varying sizes and ratios and whatnot. I mean, having and your pants are kind of in a sense modular in that sense as well, with the belt being designed how it is that you can adjust the size in that area. So that's cool to see. So y'all, thank you so much for your time. This last question is brought to you by Compete, which is Jell Stewart's brand. Message them on Facebook or Instagram, mention In the Pits for 10% off of your order of any soft goods. So do you guys have any last shout outs or things you'd like to say before we sign off?
Yeah, I got one. Shout out Jake Kennedy. If you want to get a pair of KPS or the KMP for 10% off, use code Jake10. That's JAKE 10. Just put it in at checkout and you can get 10% off your order.
Yeah. And honestly, shout out all the people that believed in us and the people that have moved away from our brand because of sponsorship requirements, but that will still gas us up. I'll give a great example. I love her to death. WNXL like pro star Jen Folk, like her and her husband, I'm great friends with them now. She's been a huge supporter from the start. Love what she's doing with the Heroines, and I understand that she has sponsorship stuff with JT, and I wish her nothing but the best. But she also says nothing but the best about us. I mean, her and her husband probably have bought about 6 or 7 pairs of pants from us. But really, anybody that supports us is a huge deal to us, because this is very much a passion project for Ken and I, and we want people to be happy with the gear that they buy, and not just I'm buying gear because I want cheaper paint or like whatever other reason that a lot of people buy gear for. It's buying gear for like, this is what I want, and it's not for something else.
Well, yeah. Shout out to all them. It's an interesting problem that, I don't know about problem is the right word, but it's an interesting landscape that we have in the scene currently, where so much of it is tied to cheaper paint at events. And that's basically what it boils down to. I would love to see, a landscape where more often you would be able to see like just wear whatever you think is the highest quality, whatever you think is going to give you the best chance to win. Hopefully we move towards that. And I'm excited to see the Kinetic products gain more popularity in the coming days and months and years. So y'all, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to go follow Kinetic. That's at Kinetic Paintball on Instagram. And then of course, Rob and Ken, they have their Instagram handles here on screen. What other guests would y'all like to see on the show? Be sure to leave a comment down below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. The show goes live weekly here on twitch.tv/inthepitspaintballpodcast, and recordings are posted to YouTube, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify the next day. I want to give a quick shout out to my partners and sponsors, FUAthletics, Get That Shot, Paintball Kumite, Compete, and Hustletown Paintball. We will see you guys next week for episode 32, where we will have Daniel Gomez, who's a professor for the Texas A&M Kinesiology Department, and he actually teaches a paintball class at Texas A&M. So I'm looking forward to this episode next week. So guys, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.